Hello everybody and welcome to the Real Housewives Edit. My name is Elle and I'm here to talk about the two loves of my life, editing and housewives. Well, you guys, it feels like it's been forever since I've actually filmed a video. Last week I did a live, which was super fun, but of course I got a copyright content claim, which is so annoying. I get them on all of my videos. I am currently literally writing a letter to Andy Cohen. I know you guys are gonna think that's psycho, but I have to do it. I have to write a letter to Andy. I have to find some other people behind the scenes that I can write a letter to and just tell them, like, listen, we're not doing anything wrong. We're just being nerds about editing and production. We are not trying to show the world these episodes on YouTube. But if you guys have any other suggestions than me writing random letters and sending them and hoping that they get to the right hands, then please put them in the comments. Below. I love your guys' suggestions. Today we are going to cover a short scene in the latest episode of The Real Housewives of Potomac. I absolutely loved this scene. This was on the season finale of Potomac. I was sad to see this season end. I really just had fun with my ladies. Sometimes a great season is drama and these big storylines, and I think there were some of those, going on in Potomac this season. I do believe that the Karen stuff is just starting to kind of come out. There's just too much smoke for there not to be any fire, and I'm looking forward to kind of that coming to fruition, if you will. But in terms of storylines and everything that went on with Potomac this season, I just really enjoyed being around my girls. That was really what I took away from this season. I was like, I just really like this cast. I really like these women. The Robin stuff was crazy. I talked about it in my live, which you can't watch anymore because of the content violation, even though I appealed to them. Anyway, I appreciate all of you who came to the live. I had so much fun. There were like almost 200 people there. We had Kempire stop by, which was like a fever dream. Everything about it was just so much fun. I just need to work out these content claim issues before I can do more of them, because that's just annoying. You guys were watching and then all of a sudden it would stop in the middle. So anyway, I just want to do more of those, but I have to figure this out. So I'm writing my letters. Mark my words, I will keep you guys updated to all of this. Thank you so much for subscribing, liking the video, writing your comments. I absolutely live for your comments. I think they are so funny. You guys are so insightful. So before I keep talking your ear off, let's just jump into this scene.
Without you.
That's the only reason why you want me around?
Well, I mean, it does help. Hi, Mia Thornton.
Yes. Okay, so as Mia's walking in, they show her intro on the green screen in her beautiful dress. It says Mia, and you hear her introducing herself to the office. They pan up on the office building, so we know we're in a medical setting, if you will. This isn't like your typical like brunch spot or even like med spa that you're used to seeing housewives in. You see that definitely we're in something that's a little bit more serious. However, even though it feels a little bit more serious because we're in a medical building, the music is still a little bit upbeat. Still got a little bit of energy to it, which you might be thinking like, okay, this is going to provide contrast because we're in a medical building, who knows what's going to come. But I just want you guys to check in with your feelings right now when you're watching it. Really check in with like, how do I feel watching this? Do I feel like something bad is about to happen in the office, or do I feel like there's going to be something good news, or do I feel like it's going to be funny? I always want you guys to check in with your emotions when you hear music, because it allows you to see how much the editors and the producers are using the music to kind of cue your emotions. So just check in with yourself. How do you feel? I personally felt like I feel like something light is about to come, whether it's like just good news about her health, or is it going to be a little bit more about kind of the way they, did things here. Let's just keep watching.
I'll call you back shortly. Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, how you feeling?
Oh my God, doctor. It's like all these appointments.
Okay, so what I thought was really interesting here was they shot this scene, a lot of the scene where her and G are talking and she's talking about how she's kind of nervous. They shot it through the glass of the woman who is, taking people's names and getting their insurance, like the front desk. And what I thought that was interesting, whenever they do stuff that's through glass, it always kind of gives you this fly on the wall feeling like this is a conversation that I shouldn't be seeing. This is a conversation that I shouldn't be part of. And it does make you kind of feel an excited feeling like I'm about to hear something that I shouldn't hear. Even though, they have the shot. You can see they have the shot that's not on the other side of the glass, but using the shots on the other side of the glass where the camera is shooting through the window, it just gives you a little bit more of that feel of I'm seeing something I shouldn't. And they definitely did that on purpose in the edit.
Right? Well, I've obviously been going through extensive testing over the past several months, and the doctors ruled out life-threatening issues. But I also...
Just on a side note, I just think it's funny, these women with their much older partners, like a Karen or like a Mia, no shade to that. I think it's great. My husband's older than me. I think, it's a common thing. But I do think there's something with these women that they really and maybe I do this, maybe I don't know, but they really include their husbands in everything. I just have to tell you everything. I'm gonna you are my partner. You are my number one. You see Karen doing that a lot with Ray. And at the end of the day, I think Ray is just kind of happy, just living his life. He's not at that same level of intensity. I think that's a really common thing that you see a lot, whether or not they're older or not, actually, now that I think about it. These women are dynamic, they are intense, they are definitely as Andy Cohen, I've heard Andy Cohen say, he says, a driven lady. This, these women can be very driven. They have a lot of just sort of energy to go towards a lot of topics, whether it's just being upset at a friend or, this health issue. And at the end of the day, G is just kind of along for the ride. I just always kind of find it funny. Anyway.
But I also have a lymph node that is swollen.
You still haven't heard anything yet?
So it's a disease, and they have to rule out that it's not in my lungs. I know, it's just been so scary.
So I thought that was a really interesting flashback. She's talking about, her health issues with the lymph node and all of these things. And then they flash back to her when she was in her kitchen. She was telling her mom about what's going on.
You still haven't heard anything yet?
So it's a disease.
There were so many other instances that they could have used where she's actually talking about her health struggles. There've been so many times during the season where she's actually talking to the women about it. But they used this clip of her talking to her mom, which maybe gives it more weight. I don't know. But it is interesting that she does put quotation marks around the word disease, especially knowing what's about to come in this scene. I just wonder if the editors did that on purpose. Put a comment below if you feel like maybe that was a little bit of a shade of a flashback to pick that one, where she's putting quotes around the word disease, or if it was just to kind of make it have more gravity because she's talking to her mom about it. Tell me what you guys think. I'm kind of on the side of maybe the former.
Scary. The whole perspective of life has changed for me. When someone calls and tells you maybe dying really soon.
That's what you heard. Yeah, that's how you interpreted what was said.
Mia?
Okay, so they have her kind of, doing this more heavy conversation with G, saying her perspective on life has changed. This is such a random thing, but sometimes I wonder if these women think in their head what the producers are going to do with the footage. I don't know why, maybe this would just be me. If I was a housewife, I'd be having conversations and I'd be editing it in my head. Oh, they're gonna put this music on when I'm talking about something sad, they're gonna make this a moment. I feel like some of these women are delusional enough to feel like a lot of their moments that maybe aren't huge moments are going to be made into huge moments in post-production, in the editorial. And I just wonder if Mia was sitting there, when she's talking about the gravity of this, that, she sees life differently. And, when she hears doctors say, you might be at the end of your life, right? It kind of changes her perspective. I want you guys to listen to the music behind as she's saying that.
The perspective of life has changed for me. When someone calls and tells you
maybe dying really soon.
It's light, it's almost clownish, it's cartoonish, it's got some energy to it. And then they cut to G saying what he says.
You heard, yeah, that's how you interpreted what was said.
Which to me is just such a funny thing. And then they end on her looking at him like, how dare you, with like kind of one of those smiles, and the music ends on a button. It's just supposed to be a comedic moment, and to kind of be a wink and a nod at us as the audience, like, guys, like, he's saying this, she's kind of looking at him like, how dare you, like, not kind of play into this moment. And the editors are kind of on G's side. And I just thought it was so funny. It made me laugh. And honestly, as soon as I saw that moment where they had the music end on her, she said that, I said, oh, this scene is about to be really funny. I knew it in my bones. She wasn't going to go in there. There was not going to be a serious diagnosis. In fact, I really just felt in that moment, there's just no way they could do that moment and then contrast it to something heavy. Editors love to show contrast, and it's a really good tactic to use for us to, you know, be interested in what's going on our screen. But I don't think they go as far to use it for something that's more serious, you know, like a disease or something going on with someone's health, to make a light moment of this where G is basically saying like, yeah, you heard that, but it wasn't really, that's, maybe it could have been interpreted differently. I don't think they'd go to something more serious after that.
Yeah?
Hello. Well, hello.
I want to like hug you. Is that appropriate?
Yes.
Baby. And you smell good? Thanks.
You're welcome to take it. I don't know. Did anyone else catch that? I thought that was really funny. I was like, I always look at moments and I say, why would they leave this in, right? I think that this moment that they left in where she's saying hello to the person bringing her in, it could be seen two ways. First of all, she's hugging her, which I know I've had family members that have had serious illnesses before, and sometimes you get close to your nurses and your techs and things like that, people that you know, and so you know, hug them, you have a closeness that's different. I feel like with Mia here, she kind of was portraying that, like, oh my God, I just want to hug you, like, we have this closeness. But I don't know about you guys, but I did hear the nurse say, nice to meet you.
Like hug you. Is that appropriate?
I think Mia said nice to see you later. I could be totally wrong. You guys tell me what you think in the comments below. But I just feel like she was kind of trying to put on that thing, like, we have this shared deeper, more serious experience. And the nurse is like, wait, who are you again? That was sort of the vibe I got. And I do kind of believe that that's why the editors left it in, but you guys tell me what you think. I'm sure you will.
Welcome to take a seat here, and you can take a seat in the black chair.
And the VIP chair here.
Hello. Hi. I'm gonna snag this from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so similar thing there, right? She's so excited to see her doctor, and no question, she might be seriously worried about what's going on. No question whatsoever. I'm not trying to take that away from her, but I do think it's a little bit put on, especially because they cut to the doctor and the doctor's just like, oh, hey, what's up? And then the editors put the chyron of Mia's dermatologist. I know a dermatologist can find serious stuff. I am not saying that. I've had family members that have gone to dermatologists and found serious stuff. It is a great profession, and they definitely are serious doctors and all of that. But I just feel, and this just might be my bias because I know Mia just has some fun delusion that I love in my housewives. Mia's perception of what's going on and what the editors are showing, just to say dermatologist, not even to say Mia's doctor, you know, anything like that, or just the doctor's name. They put dermatologist, I feel like, because it just softens it a bit. Again, I'm not going against dermatologists, but you guys kind of know what I mean. I found it to be funny. I found it to be a slight bit of editor shade.
So first, catch me up with just general health things.
So Dr. Menon was sending me over to Lombardi to rule out lymphoma. Thank God we don't have it. And then he moved over into leukemia.
Okay, so you can see here, so the music is sort of light, right? And then as she starts talking about these heavier diseases and conditions, the music totally goes away.
To rule out lymphoma. Thank God we don't have it. And then he moved over into leukemia.
So I do believe that in a way, they're obviously giving weight to these possibilities, you know, just in general, that, you know, she talked to doctors that ruled these things out, thank God. And so it is, as an audience, we're hearing this and we're hearing that she did, you know, people were asking like, did you have cancer? Did you not? her friends were asking that, but she actually went to doctors that ruled these major things out. She had tests done, she had all that stuff done. And here she is telling her dermatologist that she did all these things. So, you know, taking the music away, I think, is kind of a respectful thing. Like, these are the things that Mia has gone through, and we as the audience need to hear them, so they take the music away so it gives it a little bit of weight.
Anemia. So I went and saw the hematologist, and of course that got ruled out, thank the Lord. And then that's where, of course, you did the biopsy, and then now here we are with what's going on.
So what does it say?
Yes. So
Okay, so I felt like in this moment they left the camera on Mia for an extended period after she's explaining that, you know, the dermatologist had clearly done a biopsy of something. I truly felt, just storyline wise, you know, I know this has been sort of part of her storyline, some health issues. They're wrapping it up in this finale episode, right? They need to kind of close the loop for us. I felt honestly like Mia was really nervous here. I felt like just, I don't know about you guys, but there was a quality in her voice that felt like she was a little bit panicky, right? Which could explain earlier why she's, you know, hugging the tech and hugging the nurses and getting excited about the doctor walking in. Like, I just felt like there was a little bit of tension here, and I feel like the editors left the camera on her for a long time as she was explaining that last bit. Before, they were kind of cutting between her and the dermatologist. But this last bit where she's sort of, you know, saying like, okay, now I'm waiting for your results, I feel like they left the camera on her to kind of be like, okay, like, she actually is nervous about this. This actually is a thing for her, and you guys should take it seriously because she does as well.
So one of the things that the pathologist has discussed here in the results is sarcoidosis. So sarcoidosis is
So first of all, I want to point out to you guys that this dermatologist is definitely mic'd. The doctors always seem to be mic'd, but sometimes you have the nursing staff and others that when they speak, it just doesn't sound as clear. But you can tell that obviously they knew this was going to be a scene between Mia and the doctor that was going to, you know, we were going to need to hear everything that the doctor said. So they have her mic'd. That's going to come into play a little bit later when she talks about what is actually going on, but we'll get there. The one thing I did want to bring up here was it was just shade what they did. You know, she said this sort of big word.
discussed here in the results is sarcoidosis.
And then they had the camera go back to Mia, and she sort of looks down, and they do this big sound effect. And honestly, it's just kind of, to me, it feels like they're just kind of poking shade at Mia's intelligence, even though none of us probably know what that word means. I believe that they throw shade sort of like, okay, Mia obviously has no idea what that word means. You get the sound effect, you get her looking kind of down like, what the heck is that? But it's also just a little bit funny because us as the audience don't know what it means. I would say most of us as the audience wouldn't know what that means either. It's a double-edged shade, if you will. Shade a little bit at the doctor for saying a big word that no one knows what it is, and shade a little bit at Mia for not knowing what that is. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like that's the best kind of comedic moments, is where they can go either way. They're not just poking fun at one person. They're kind of a little bit poking fun at us and poking fun at the whole situation, if you will.
This is it can be just a skin disease, or it can be something systemic, meaning involving other organ systems, but they specifically mentioned that features of that are not seen in this biopsy. So that's
okay. So here she's going into the explanation a little bit further. She's saying, you know, there's a possibility that this stuff could be serious, but it's, you know, in these, you know, results, it's showing that that's not the case. They show Mia's reaction of being relieved that that's not the case, but she does still have a little bit of tension in her. It seems like she's still waiting kind of for the bigger results. You can hear that there's actually no music going on underneath here.
It can be just a skin disease, or it can be something systemic, meaning involving other organ systems.
So it does make the moment feel a little bit more serious. Imagine this same exact scene with a little bit of like the light, easygoing music that they, you know, tend to put into some moments to make them feel a little bit more comedic. They didn't do that here, and we'll find out a little bit more why as the scene progresses.
So that's very,
news, right?
yes,
Yeah.
it's very reassuring. We want to just rule out anything else internal.
And if it's just topical, then it's nothing more than a minor aggravation.
Yes, exactly right.
Okay. So then, they have the dermatologist talking more. There's a kind of an awkward cut there. They're shortening it a bit. I imagine that this conversation went longer than 30 seconds, right? So they took a little bit out. She finishes her sentence. They cut to G, and G is basically thinking maybe what we're all thinking, which is like, okay, well, if that's the case, if we rule all that out, then it really is just, basically something minor, right? And they kind of leave this space in after he kind of is like implying like, finish my sentence.
And if it's just topical, then it's nothing more than.
And then we get to the actual part that made us all laugh. I don't know about you guys, but it really made me laugh the way the editors did this, and let's just watch.
Yes, exactly right. Mike, get some rash.
They said you have cancer.
They said it looks like you have lymphoma.
Before we get into all this silliness, I just had to laugh. So she says like it's a rash, and you can hear in that audio right there that it's definitely clipped.
Mike, get some rash.
Without a doubt, I can tell you that without being on set, just from working with audio so much, I know exactly what it sounds like when you clip audio, because a lot of times when we talk, right? If I say a sentence here, a lot of my words are running into each other, especially if you speak kind of fast, or if you're talking about something you really know what you're talking about, the words tend to run together. And, with this doctor, I'm sure she knows exactly what she's talking about. So she probably said something like, it's a rash, blah, 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 and kept going. But for comedic effect, the editors wanted to cut off the sentence and have her just say, it's a rash, right? After all this sort of like build up to what could it be? It could be something very, very serious. She says, it's a rash. And then the music immediately comes in with almost like this clownish, cartoonish.
Mike, get some rash.
Very, very slightly in the background, you hear sort of this zhoo, like an engine sort of being cut.
Mike, get some rash.
It's just sort of like deflating the balloon, I would say, is the sound effect. And it kind of goes along with Mia's face. It almost looks like Mia's face is falling, like she's like upset that this is just a rash, as they say. So I know she's not upset, but I do think that the editors made it kind of look like that. And now we're about to get into why they did that, because what they're about to show now are some flashbacks to kind of make it show like, why is Mia's thinking about everything that went on, and now she's going to have to explain to her friends that she's told all this stuff to, that it is, as the doctor said, just a rash.
They said you have cancer.
They said it looks like you have lymphoma. I told you he could marry you.
I didn't want to say that.
I don't play with fake announcements about your health.
Okay.
So the next steps would be to get.
So that was just so funny to me. She said it's just a rash. Mia's face looked like, oh my gosh, all of these flashbacks, all these things. Telling Jacqueline, her great friend, that she can marry her husband if something was to happen to her. Cutting to Karen saying like, basically, I don't like these fake announcements. Her telling off Giselle and Robin in that party. Remember the first episode where she's telling them off and saying like, this was serious. It was lymphoma. It could have been lymphoma. And then as soon as those flashbacks stop, you just get her going like,
Okay.
and then the music stops and does this sort of button. And it was just so funny. It really is supposed to make us laugh, but also elicit this thing like, okay, the loop is closed, but it's not quite over yet because she has some explaining to do, if you will.
Would be to get a chest x-ray to make sure that those lymph nodes that are around the lungs are not inflamed, because you've had the lymph node enlargement in the groin area. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, so then they go into further about this diagnosis. She goes into, you need to get an x-ray, right? And so then the music kind of goes out. And so it's going like serious, funny, serious, funny a little bit, but not going too funny, not making fun of it too much, because, something serious could definitely be going on. But I do think there's this weird thing every time they cut to Mia. You would think she would be like thrilled to get that news. Like she came in so nervous, and then she gets this news and she still looks a little bit bummed out. And I don't know if they're trying to kind of show that she's sort of like, oh gosh, I have a lot of explaining to do to my friends. They're gonna say, I told you so behind my back. This story doesn't like close the loop as well as I wanted it to, but at the same time, of course she wants to be healthy. So it's just sort of a funny cut to me, which is why I wanted to talk about it.
It has been such a challenging time, not only for me, but for our family, and to just know that I am actually going to.
So that was one of the shadiest cuts I've ever seen. They had Mia in her confessional talking about how hard this time has been for her, right? And then they cut to the doctor, which I've talked to you guys about before. A lot of times who they cut to during the confessionals, they're almost cutting to someone saying like, this is their reaction to what this person is saying in the confessionals. So the way that they cut in this tiny split second thing of the doctor kind of nodding her head in a judgmental way. I mean, let's just be clear. This doctor, this gorgeous doctor, is like got a judgy side to her. I don't know her at all, but I love her. I feel like she's one of us. She is looking at Mia as Mia's saying how hard this time has been after she's just delivered the news that it's just a rash. And she's kind of giving that look like, yeah, okay. And it's just made me laugh so much that they used that. Obviously, the editors could have used anything from the dermatologist. She could have used her like smiling and laughing to Mia. They could have used her sort of like, reading off some stuff or looking seriously at her notes. But they chose to use this very judgmental, tiny, 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 subtle little moment of her nodding to Mia while Mia's saying this in the confessional. And I just thought it was a hilarious choice on the editor's part.
Actually going to live on and be here for my babies. It's humbling, for sure.
We'll check back.
Okay. So, contrast, you guys, here we go. She's talking about stuff that is so serious, talking about, being humbled, this like being around for her children to grow up, that sort of thing. However, we know what the news that she just got was nothing serious whatsoever. And so the music that they're playing while she's saying this is not the music that, Candace got several episodes back when she was talking about her fertility journey. She's not getting that music. She's getting the clown music, the cartoon music.
I am actually going to live on and be here for my babies.
It is not lending itself to us feeling something about this at all, feeling anything really other than like Mia was being Mia and overreacting to something or making something bigger or being delusional about something that she didn't need to be. Now, again, I go back to the fact that in that one reaction shot, I actually do believe that she was seriously nervous about this, but I am a little bit confused about her reaction after she got the good news. But listen, I mean, these housewives, they just have different priorities, I think. I think sometimes the priority of, I don't know. I know she's happy that she got a good diagnosis, but I don't think she's very happy about having to answer and tell the rest of the ladies this information. That's just my take.
We'll check back in a month and just make sure that everything is continuing to improve.
Fun.
You've had a lot going on in the past 7+ months that I've been seeing you.
Yes,
so.
it's been a whirlwind.
I know.
For sure.
Coming up next.
So the very end of the scene, she's basically skipping by the fact that it's just a rash, and she's like, it's been a crazy whirlwind of 7 months, right? And the doctor is being very nice and like filling in the blanks of her sentences as she's saying that. And then the music is still kind of picking up on this cartoon cue. And then the end of it is sort of like, I don't know, it just reminds me of like a carnival, like the sounds you'd hear in a carnival.
For sure.
And she says, it's been a whirlwind. And then they cut to G and his face is sort of like, has it been? And then the music goes along with it too and sort of ends on this weird note. That was just too funny. I just love these scenes where there's kind of a lot of delusion going on, because you guys know I love my housewives delusional. This scene was one of those where it's delusional. There's obviously good news being said, but there's just still like a disconnect going on with everything, especially in this storyline. We've seen some like fake, I don't know, not fake, but health issues that didn't quite pan out the way that maybe people were purporting them, much like Kim Zolciak. I will never forget that moment at the reunion. It's honestly one of my favorite moments. Obviously, we had the Brooks drama, but that was a little bit different. But this whole thing right here, I just thought it was so funny, and I just love I just love when the editors shade with the music and they provide so much contrast to what the person's actually saying by just doing different music cues, showing different reactions, sort of just a wink to the audience like, we get you, we understand what you're feeling about the situation, and that's really what the editors did in this scene. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, thank you so much for coming to the lives. I have to figure out these content warnings or whatever I'm getting on YouTube, because I know if you get a certain number of them, you get a strike, and if you get 3 strikes, they get rid of your channel. I'm like a goody two-shoes. I always do everything by the book. I'm always worried about getting in trouble. So annoyed with this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what happens if the channel goes away? Listen, we are in February right now. I started this channel in May of last year. If I can just get it to a year without getting a content strike, I will be so happy. So I'm going to write my letter to Andy Cohen, and you guys tell me in the comments below if you have any suggestions. I've obviously done all of the YouTube research to figure out what I can do to not get them to flag my videos, but I don't know, even doing all the appeals and doing all the things right, I'm still getting flags. So I know we're going to beat this. We're going to figure this out. I feel like we have so much on the horizon. I'm going to be covering Jersey. I have one more scene to cover in Potomac. I really hope you guys will tune in, and until next time.
Get some rash.
Okay.